It's just land, my father said, sliding the document across the table. Sign it, Harper. Do this for the family. Do this for peace. My name is Harper Loron, and the land he was asking me to give up was my mother's dying wish to protect it. And the brother I was supposed to keep peace with? He isn't even my father's son. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I pulled out the DNA test, slid it across the table, and said, "You're right, Dad. Let's talk about family." The pen dropped from his hand. His fingers started shaking. He should have known. I don't come to family meetings unprepared. I was 28 years old, sitting in my father's study with everyone staring at me. My stepmother, Veronica, looked confused. My half-brother, Owen, looked angry. And my father looked like he'd seen a ghost. That envelope changed everything. The land wasn't just property to me. It was 200 acres of prime farmland that had been in my family for 4 generations. My maternal grandfather had built his entire life on that soil. He'd raised crops there. He built a house with his own hands. He created a legacy that was supposed to last forever. When he died, he left everything to my mother. She was his only child, and he trusted her completely to protect what he'd built. The land had rich soil, natural springs, and woods full of old-growth trees. Developers had been trying to buy it for years, offering millions of dollars. But my mother always refused their offers. "This land is our history," she told me when I was young. "Never let anyone take it from you, Harper. Promise me." Now my father wanted me to hand it over to Owen. Just like that, as if generations of family history meant nothing. My mother died of cancer when I was 23 years old. I held her hand in the hospital as she took her last breath, watching the machines around her go silent one by one. The night before she passed, she made me promise something. Her voice was barely a whisper, but her grip on my hand was surprisingly strong. "Harper, promise me you'll never let go of that land," she said. "Your grandfather built that for us. For you. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." "I promise, Mom," I said through my tears. "Your father will try," she continued, her eyes intense despite her weakness. "Veronica will push him. They'll say it's for Owen. But that land is yours. It's your birthright." I didn't fully understand then why she was so insistent. But now, 5 years later, sitting in my father's study with that document in front of me, everything made sense. My mother had known what would happen after she was gone. Owen was 22 years old and had never worked a real day in his life. He was entitled, rude, and completely dependent on our father for everything. Veronica, my stepmother, had married my father 2 years after my mother died. She brought Owen with her, a sullen teenager who resented me from the moment we met. "Why does she get everything?" Owen would complain to our father. "I'm your son, too." My father would try to calm him down, but Veronica always took Owen's side in every disagreement. "He has a point, dear," she'd say sweetly. "It's not fair that Harper inherited all that valuable land while Owen has nothing." But Owen did have something. He had a trust fund from his biological father's estate. He had a new car every single year. He had everything handed to him on a silver platter. What he didn't have was the Loron family land. And that fact drove him absolutely crazy. Now they wanted me to fix that problem by simply giving it away. I started suspecting something was wrong about 6 months ago. I was visiting my father's house for Sunday dinner when I overheard Veronica on the phone in the kitchen. She'd had too much wine with dinner, and her voice carried through the house. "He doesn't know," she said to whoever was on the line. "And he never will. As long as Owen gets that land, it doesn't matter what really happened." I stood in the hallway outside the kitchen door, frozen and listening. "The timing was perfect," Veronica continued with a laugh. "He married me right after his wife died. He never questioned anything. He thinks Owen is his fresh start, his second chance at fatherhood." My blood went cold. What did she mean by never questioned anything? I walked away quietly before she could catch me listening. But those words stuck with me for days, playing over and over in my mind. That night, I started researching everything I could find about Owen's background. I visited my mother's lawyer the following week. His name was Harold Chun, and he'd handled my mother's entire estate after she died. "Mr. Chun, I need to ask you something personal," I said in his office. "Did my mother ever suspect that Owen wasn't my father's biological son?" He looked at me carefully over his reading glasses. "Why would you ask me that question, Harper?" Because I think there's something my father doesn't know. Something important. Mr. Chin sighed deeply and leaned back in his chair. Your mother had suspicions for years. She never had concrete proof, but she noticed many things that didn't add up. Like what? I asked. The way Veronica would get nervous around certain topics. The way Owen looked nothing like your father. The timeline of their relationship didn't quite make sense either. Why didn't she say anything to Dad? I asked. She didn't want to destroy your father, he said sadly. She loved him, even at the end. And she didn't want you caught in the middle of a terrible scandal. I hired a private investigator named Thomas Banks 2 days later. He was expensive, but everyone said he was the best at what he did. I need DNA samples, he explained during our first meeting. From both your father and Owen. But they can't know what you're doing. How do I get those without them knowing? I asked. A hair with a root still attached, saliva from a drinking glass, or eating utensil. Anything with their genetic material on it. Over the next 2 weeks, I collected what I needed. I took a coffee mug Owen had used at my apartment after a family brunch. I retrieved my father's hairbrush from his bathroom during a weekend visit. I felt incredibly guilty doing it. Sneaking around, taking things that didn't belong to me. But I needed to know the truth about my family. Thomas sent everything to a professional lab. Results should be back in 10 days, he told me. Those were the longest 10 days of my entire life. While waiting for the DNA results to come back, I pretended to go along with the land transfer process. I attended meetings with various lawyers. I asked detailed questions about all the paperwork. I acted like I was seriously considering signing away my inheritance. My father seemed genuinely relieved by my cooperation. I knew you'd eventually see reason, Harper, he said proudly. Veronica smiled at me sweetly over family dinners. This is what's best for everyone, Harper. You'll understand that someday. Owen was cocky and arrogant about the whole thing. About time you stopped being so selfish, he muttered whenever we crossed paths. I just smiled and nodded at all of them. Inside, I was counting down the days until I had proof. Thomas called me on a Tuesday afternoon while I was at work. Results are in. Do you want me to send them electronically, or would you prefer to come to my office? Send them, I said quickly. I want to see them privately first. The email arrived within 5 minutes. The pressure from my family increased dramatically. My father called me almost every single day with the same speech. The lawyers need your signature by the end of the month, Harper, he said firmly. Stop dragging your feet on this. I'm not dragging my feet, Dad, I lied. I'm just making sure I fully understand everything before I sign. What's there to understand? You sign the papers, Owen gets the land, and we can all move forward as a family. Why does Owen get everything? I asked. Why not split the land between us? Why does he deserve all of it? My father's voice became hard and cold. Don't be emotional about this, Harper. Men inherit land in this family. That's the way it's always been done. That's not true at all, I said. Grandpa left it to Mom. She left it to me. Both women. That was different. How was it different? Because I'm telling you to do this now. I'm your father, and you should respect my decisions. I hung up feeling both angry and validated. I did some more investigating on my own and discovered something absolutely shocking. My father had promised the land to Owen months before he'd even bothered to ask me about signing. I found emails between my father and Veronica where they discussed the entire transfer in detail. They'd already started making plans for what Owen would do with the property once it was his. He'll sell half of it to those developers. One email from my father read. That should set him up financially for life. They were planning to destroy my grandfather's legacy for quick money. Everything he'd built would be gone within a year. I also discovered a signed contract between my father and a major development company. They'd already agreed to purchase 100 acres as soon as the land was legally transferred into Owen's name. Everything was already in motion. They were just waiting for my signature to make it all official. I forwarded every single email to Mr. Chun. You need to see this immediately, I wrote in my message. He called me back within an hour, his voice tight with anger. The DNA test results sat in a sealed envelope on my kitchen table. I'd had them printed out professionally and notarized by a licensed official. They were completely official, legal, and undeniable. The report stated clearly, 99.9% probability that Owen was not my father's biological son. I read that report at least 20 times. I wanted to make absolutely sure I understood every single detail before I used it as evidence. The document included detailed genetic markers, complex analysis methods, and expert certification from the lab. It was completely ironclad and indisputable. I called Mr. Chen and told him I was ready to stop the transfer permanently. "What exactly do you want to do, Harper?" he asked carefully. "I want to confront them. All of them. Together in one room." "That's very risky," he warned me. "They might deny everything. They might even attack you verbally or worse." "Let them try," I said firmly. "I have proof of everything now." Mr. Chen agreed to attend the confrontation as my legal representative. He prepared additional documents as backup, including my grandfather's original will and my mother's complete estate papers. Before the big family meeting, I went to see the lawyer who'd been handling the land deed transfer for my father. His name was Paul Anderson, and he'd been working on this case for several weeks. "Mr. Anderson, I need to show you something very important," I said when we met. I handed him the DNA test results and watched his face carefully. He read them slowly, and I watched all the color drain from his face. "Does your father know about this yet?" "Not yet, but he will soon." "This changes absolutely everything," he said, looking shocked. "If Owen isn't your father's biological son, then he has no legal claim whatsoever to your family's land. The entire transfer would be based on completely false pretenses. That's inheritance fraud, isn't it?" I asked, wanting confirmation. "Yes, very serious inheritance fraud." I pulled out another document, my grandfather's original will from decades ago. This will names only my mother as his heir. When she died, everything passed directly to me. There's one condition attached, though. Mr. Anderson read it carefully. The will clearly stated that I had to either marry before age 30 or open a foundation in my mother's name to maintain full ownership. "I'm 28 now," I explained. "I have 2 years left, and I'm already planning to open that foundation." I spent the next several days preparing everything meticulously. I secured official copies of every single important document: my grandfather's will, my mother's estate papers, the DNA test results, all the fraudulent emails I had discovered. I created a professional presentation folder for each person who would be attending the meeting. I wanted everyone to see the evidence in clear black and white. I also visited my uncle, my mother's younger brother. His name was James, and he'd always been extremely protective of me after my mother died. "I need your help with something serious, James," I told him when we met for coffee. I explained everything carefully: the pressure to sign away my land, the DNA test results, the secret deal with developers that my father had already signed. James was absolutely furious when he heard it all. "They're trying to steal from you, Harper. Your mother would be devastated. We absolutely cannot let this happen." "I need you at the meeting," I said. "I need someone there who's completely on my side." "I'll be there," he promised immediately. "And I'm bringing my lawyer with me, too." James had excellent connections in the legal world. 2 days before the scheduled meeting, Veronica called me unexpectedly. Her voice was sharp and accusing. "What exactly are you doing, Harper? Your father says you're deliberately stalling this entire process." "I'm not stalling anything, Veronica. I'm being thorough and careful." "You're being greedy and selfish," she snapped at me. "Owen deserves that land just as much as you do. He's part of his family, too." "Is he really?" I asked carefully, testing her reaction. There was a long pause on the line. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing at all. I'll see you at the meeting on Saturday." She hung up on me abruptly. I could tell she was nervous now. Maybe she suspected that I knew something important. That same night, Owen sent me several angry text messages. "You're ruining everything for our family. Just sign the papers and stop being so selfish about everything." I didn't bother responding to him. There was absolutely no point in arguing with Owen yet. I'd save all my words for Saturday when everyone was together. Saturday morning finally arrived. I woke up very early, reviewed all my documents one final time, and dressed in a professional business suit. I wanted to look serious and official. This wasn't going to be a casual family meeting. This was going to be a confrontation, and I needed to look prepared. James picked me up at 10 o'clock sharp. His lawyer, Catherine Morris, sat quietly in the back seat of his car. "Are you ready for this?" James asked me seriously. "I'm ready," I said with confidence. We drove to my father's house together. Several cars were already parked in the circular driveway, my father's luxury sedan, Veronica's SUV, and Mr. Anderson's car. We walked into the house together as a united front. My father looked genuinely surprised to see James and Catherine with me. Why are they here? My father asked with obvious suspicion. Because this is a serious legal matter, I said calmly. And I want official witnesses present for everything. Veronica's face went tight and pale. Owen looked confused and angry. We all sat around the large dining room table. My father positioned himself at the head like always. I sat directly across from him with my entire team beside me. I pulled out the folder I'd carefully prepared. Inside was everything: DNA test results, incriminating emails, old wills, fraudulent contracts. Before I sign anything at all, I said clearly, I need to address some very serious concerns. My father frowned at me. What concerns could you possibly have? These concerns. I slid the DNA test results across the polished table directly to him. He picked up the document slowly. I watched his face turn completely white as he read the results. What is this? He whispered, his voice shaking. A paternity test. Owen is not your biological son, Dad. The room absolutely exploded with noise. Veronica jumped to her feet, knocking over her chair. That's a complete lie. Owen grabbed the paper from my father's hands. This is fake. You made this up somehow. My father just stared at the document in shock, his hands trembling visibly. It's not fake at all, Catherine said firmly and professionally. That's a certified laboratory result. It's legally admissible in any court. You had no right to do this. Veronica screamed at me. I had every right, I said calmly. You were asking me to give my inheritance to someone who isn't even part of our family. My father finally looked up at Veronica with betrayal in his eyes. Is this true? Veronica tried desperately to deny everything, but I prepared for exactly that response. I pulled out printed copies of emails from her personal account. These are messages between you and your sister, I said clearly. From several years ago. I read one aloud for everyone to hear. He'll never know Owen isn't really his. As long as I play the loving wife perfectly, we're completely safe. My father's face completely crumbled. James put a supportive hand on my shoulder. I pulled out another email. And this one is from just 3 months ago. Once Harper signs over that land, we can sell it immediately, and Owen will finally have the inheritance he deserves. You faked his birth certificate, didn't you? Catherine asked Veronica directly. Veronica sat down heavily in her chair. She didn't answer the question, but her silence was basically an admission of guilt. Owen looked frantically between his mother and my father. Mom, is she telling the truth about this? Veronica finally broke down completely. Yes, okay. You're not his biological son, but we raised you like you were his. That should count for something. My father stood up slowly from his chair. Get out of my house. What? Veronica asked in shock. Get out of my house right now. My father was absolutely devastated by the revelation. He'd raised Owen for 22 years, believing completely that he was his biological son. He'd loved him, provided everything for him, and planned an entire future for him. All of it based on a complete lie. How could you do this to me? My father asked Veronica, his voice breaking. I did it for Owen, she shouted back defensively. He deserved a good life. You had money and stability. I had absolutely nothing. So you lied to me. For 2 entire decades, you lied to my face every single day. Owen tried desperately to defend his mother. She did what she had to do to survive. She committed fraud, Catherine stated clearly. Birth certificate fraud, paternity fraud, inheritance fraud, all serious crimes. My father looked at me with pain in his eyes. Did you know about this before today? I suspected something was wrong. I needed solid proof before I could say anything. You should have told me sooner, Harper. Would you have believed me without proof? I asked him directly. He didn't answer me. We both knew the truth. He absolutely wouldn't have believed me without evidence. Veronica and Owen left the house that afternoon. My father didn't try at all to stop them from leaving. The following week was complete chaos. Owen tried to fight me publicly about everything. He showed up at my apartment building one evening, screaming accusations in the parking lot. You destroyed my entire family, he he yelled loudly. I recorded everything on my phone's camera. He threatened me repeatedly. He called me horrible names. He even tried to grab my arm aggressively. Building security pulled him away from me. I took the video directly to the police station and filed for a restraining order. The order was granted within 48 hours. Owen now had to stay at least 500 feet away from me at all times. Veronica tried a completely different approach with my father. She called him repeatedly every day, begging desperately for forgiveness. We can work this out somehow, she pleaded with him. We can get marriage counseling. Owen is still the boy you raised and loved. But my father had completely changed. He's not my son. You made absolutely sure of that 22 years ago. He filed for divorce the following Monday morning. He also cut Owen off financially in every way. No more trust fund access, no more credit cards, no more monthly support payments. Owen and Veronica had lost absolutely everything in 1 week. My lawyer, Mr. Chun, presented our complete case to the local probate court. We wanted to ensure that no one could ever challenge my ownership of the family land again. The judge carefully reviewed all the documents, my grandfather's original will, my mother's estate papers, the DNA test results, everything. This is quite clear to me, the judge said firmly. Miss Laurent is the sole legal heir to this property. The attempted transfer was based entirely on fraudulent claims. The judge issued an official order halting all transfer attempts permanently. The land was legally locked in my name forever. But the judge also addressed the developer's contract that my father had secretly signed. That contract is completely void. It was made without the actual property owner's consent. The development company tried to sue my father for breach of contract, but they had no real case. My father had signed away something he didn't legally own. Veronica tried to countersue too, claiming my father owed Owen child support for all the years of raising him. That case was immediately thrown out as well. She committed fraud, and the courts weren't at all sympathetic. Justice felt incredibly sweet. I could have pressed serious criminal charges against Veronica for the forged birth certificate and all the fraud. The prosecutor actually encouraged me strongly to do it, but I decided not to pursue criminal charges. Destroying her completely wouldn't bring my mother back to life. It wouldn't heal my father's broken heart either. I just want them completely gone from our lives, I told Mr. Chun. Instead, I insisted that my father cut them off financially in every possible way. No more money. No more support. No more contact whatsoever. My father agreed immediately. He was completely done with both of them. Veronica and Owen moved to another state within a month. I heard through family friends that they were struggling badly financially. Owen was working a retail job at a mall. Veronica was living in a tiny apartment. Part of me felt a little bad for them, but mostly I just felt relieved. They couldn't hurt me or my family anymore. The land was mine. Legally. Permanently. Undeniably mine forever. With all the legal battles finally over, I could focus on honoring my mother's memory properly. Her will had given me two clear choices: marry before turning 30 or open a foundation in her name. I chose the foundation without hesitation. I used a portion of the land to create the Anna Laurent Center for Women's Empowerment. It would offer programs for women in business, agriculture, and leadership development. We built a beautiful facility over several months. Modern classrooms, comfortable meeting spaces, peaceful gardens for reflection. We hired excellent instructors and professional counselors. The center officially opened 6 months later. Over 100 women attended our very first session. I stood at the podium during the opening ceremony, looking out at all those hopeful faces. My mother believed deeply that women could accomplish anything if they had the right support system, I said. This center is her legacy, and it's my promise to continue her important work. The audience gave a standing ovation. I felt my mother's presence strongly in that moment. She would have been so incredibly proud of what I'd built. The local news media covered the foundation's opening extensively. They wanted to interview me about the difficult journey that had led to its creation. I agreed to the interview, but I kept all the family drama completely private. I didn't mention any names or specific details about what had happened. I inherited valuable land from my mother, I told the reporter carefully. There were people who tried hard to take it from me, but I fought back. I protected what was rightfully mine. What advice would you give to other women in similar situations? The reporter asked me. Know your worth, I said firmly. Know your legal rights. And don't let anyone convince you to give up what belongs to you. Inheritance must be earned through integrity, not manipulation. The interview went viral online within days. Women from all over the country reached out to share their own stories of family betrayal and stolen inheritances. I realized this wasn't just my personal story anymore. It was happening to women everywhere. The foundation became more than just a tribute to my mother. It became a movement for women's rights. My father and I slowly began to rebuild our damaged relationship. It took considerable time. There was a lot of hurt to work through carefully. He wrote me a heartfelt letter 6 months after the DNA revelation. Dear Harper, I'm deeply sorry for everything. I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. I'm sorry I let Veronica manipulate me so completely. I'm sorry I tried to take your inheritance. I was terribly wrong about everything. I hope one day you can forgive me. I'd like to be part of your life again, if you'll let me. Love, Dad. I read that letter many times before I finally responded. Eventually, I wrote back. Dad, I appreciate your sincere apology. I'm not ready to fully forgive you yet, but maybe we can start slowly rebuilding. Maybe you can visit the foundation. See what Mom's legacy has become. We can talk more then. He visited 2 weeks later. He walked through the entire center quietly, reading every display about my mother's life and values. When we sat down for coffee afterward, he had tears in his eyes. She would be so incredibly proud of you, Harper. I hope so, I said softly. I am too. I should have said that many years ago. The land dedication ceremony happened on a beautiful spring morning. We planted extensive gardens, built peaceful pathways, and created outdoor learning spaces throughout the property. Over 300 people attended the ceremony. Women from the local community, business leaders, former students from the Foundation's first programs. I stood at the podium with my Uncle James, standing proudly beside me. My father sat in the front row, watching quietly. Some families bury secrets, I said into the microphone. They hide lies under layers of tradition and obligation. But secrets always come out eventually. And when they do, they destroy everything they touch. I paused, looking out at the supportive crowd. I chose a different path entirely. I planted truth in soil and grew a legacy instead. This land represents 4 generations of strength. My great-grandfather built it. My grandfather protected it. My mother preserved it. And now I'm sharing it with all of you. The crowd stood and applauded loudly. Many people wiped tears from their eyes. After the ceremony ended, a young woman approached me nervously. Thank you so much, she said. My family is pressuring me to give up my inheritance too. But after hearing your story, I'm going to fight back. Good, I said with a smile. Fight for what's yours. You deserve it. As the sun set over the land that evening, I felt complete. I'd honored my mother's final wish. I'd protected our family legacy. I'd turned betrayal into purpose. My father had asked me to sign away my land for peace. Instead, I'd used the truth to build something that would outlast all of us. And that was worth every moment of the fight.